Good evening. This is the Elliott Wave Daily Update for the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100 for Wednesday, August the 28th, 2024. It truly was an interesting day. And if you were there and you were trading it, there was a lot of activity in the morning. There was a lot heavier downside that I would anticipate. And then it got the response was a nice little strong uh, couple of hour, rally in between, but it held to an impulse type pattern going down. And we were hoping that, by the time NVIDIA put out their earnings, because there was a larger number today. We had CrowdStrike, we had Salesforce, we have NVIDIA, we had, there's another company that does quite well. I can't remember it, but then again, it might come back. But we had some of the bigger players, CrowdStrike in particular, because they're just getting through. They were kind of always in the background doing well. And then they had that massive outage and knocking Microsoft out and airlines offline and all kinds of things. So, but they reported really strong earnings, and the stock is up $9 or $10 from the close. So good deal for them. Nvidia reported today, and NVIDIA actually beat the estimates, not by a whole lot, but you're still considering this is a company, large, but still a company that made $30 billion out of generating, I think it was 68 billion in revenue. That's like, wow, big company. And so and it kind of gets into a point where it's like, boy, you're big enough, you're going to have to really keep spending and you got to spend a lot of money. So we've watched other mega firms go through their growing pains and having to go, when there's a flip or a switch in the money flow and the economy types on that level, we see massive layoffs. So, and that of course upsets a lot of apple carts if you're going over to that side, which is the macro side, what actually does affect the economy and money, et cetera. Sometimes a little bit different. Back to the S&P 500. You'll notice I've not really changed the labeling, and I have not really even added. What I have done is that I've moved where I think I had it prior and now moved it over to here. Now, this is just because that's where it is right now. That doesn't mean it can't go lower, right? So we can get follow through overnight where we get Asia that wants to put their 2 cents in, and then we're going to get Europe that gets to trade all of this, and then plus anything else that kind of comes in at that time. So as of right now, I'm leaving it in this where the minor wave 4 is done, and we're in a minute wave 3. Excuse me, minute wave 4. So we still have a 5 to do. I left it yesterday. It's like, well, if they really, do a barn burner here, and NVIDIA and maybe even CRM and maybe even CrowdStrike, really, CrowdStrike actually wasn't bad, came out and blew doors off, we might have seen a stronger spike. But just the way that things are going right now in that respect, it still was good. But could have already been priced in. Let's leave it at that. Now, so I'm leaving it in that it's a 4 and we still have a 5 to go. What I am going to bring in, it was a discussion, and this is like what actually Sasha and I were having. And we had gotten together this afternoon with a couple other people from the trade room and aftermarket for NVIDIA's earnings. So it was fun, but gave Sasha and I a chance to talk, and the people that were there got to listen, and about what actually is going on in the NASDAQ. And so Sasha uh, was actually discussing how he didn't think that the structure was now getting a little bit too big, too long, to be in this degree the fourth when the second was so quick and one and done, so to speak. And you have to respect it, because don't forget that as students of Elliott, we're actually told to we work with, and Elliott said, hey, don't forget look and feel. Those are also going to be very important as you label. And that's what this is. The look and the feel. Yeah, it does all. It's a bunch of threes with a couple of, impulses at the end, the beginning and the end, which kind of is an ABC. So that all fits, but it is bigger. My side is like, yep, I hear you. And normally I would be like, yep, I don't like it. But this funny thing is that the market is kind of just bypassing what you might think about the look and feel. And it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we get the next move. So these I talk about once in a while, that these are the changes that I'm seeing in how we label and how we look at Elliott wave in motion. Because often you would go with the next best. So in other words, what else could it be? And that's when you're going to go like, well, it's a C wave of minor four. So minor four would move out. This would become minute wave A, and that's coming off of that high. So it's an ABC, but it's minute wave A here, minute wave B here. And what we're really doing is starting like a 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, or something of that nature. And now we're starting into, we should continue to decline. And initially, we did. And the future finished up at 55.93. So it's below 5,600, which psychologically and also gamma wise and just capital flow wise, 5,600, not majorly important, but there was a level there, and it is how things fluctuate above and below. So 5,600 can be resistance or it can be support. Right now, it's just there. Now, so what can I say about what we did today? I'm going to bring it down to the 15-minute chart. And that's what we're going to talk about just in here. I'm going to open this up because this is really what we're looking at, right? That this could be an A, a B, and a bazaar. Bazaar cannot deny collection right there. This impulse, except that doesn't overlap, but it was big. And then it fell all the way back, made a new low. So what can I say? That it is an ABC, not always pretty, not always easy. And if it is, then I would put a wave 4 here because you have an A, B, C, 3, and pulling it back out again to the hourly. On top of that, here we have the fibs for the retracement, and it's 55.51, and that low, I thought we might get a little closer, actually. The low was 55.76, and that was this afternoon after earnings came out. And let me just double check that time. Come on, tell me. Oh, right at the close, actually. In that 1 to 2. Excuse me, that's 1 to 2 Pacific. The extra hour after the close. So that's where we came down. We put in a slight new low. And that could be the wave 4. Now, what that would also suggest is that the rest of the world's going to be like, we're okay with that. We're just going to start moving it higher, and we're going to go higher based on something different. And because continued downside would then start to flip it. And although we'd have to wait for it to break below the price territory or within the price territory of wave 1, because that's pretty hard and fast rule. Wave 4 cannot overlap wave 1. Cannot, boom, don't. So with that in mind, that's how far it can come down, but that's not saying that's how far I would let it come down and still try to call this a 4. So the alternate, again, minute A, minute B right here, and we're working the start of a C wave. And it has to be the very beginning of this C wave, which is going to be 5 waves of its own. So somehow we got to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 1, 2, and this could get real ugly real fast, right? If you're counting 1, 2, 1, 2, and a 1, 2, it is extending. So what are we going to be looking for? If it is 1, 2, 1, 2, then what you're looking for is a 3, 4, 5 for the first 3, 4, 5 for the second 3, 4, 5 for the structure. We're looking for 5 down. So in a C wave. And I think we would just be in wave one, because what we ultimately are looking for is this. We're going to come down back into yeah. Let me take it out one more just to be crystal clear. Yes, that low, if A, B, C, we're still in the minor four. And you're going to put it over here. And so it's A, B, C. There, we're just in the beginning. So you see why I'm saying it can only be wave one of C, and a two of C, a three of C, a four of C, five of C. So in my opinion, if it is this, then it should be coming down exactly in the same fashion as it did here. Now, just flipping, still technical analysis, but a different type of language. When you're looking at the flows, what it suggests for the flows is that they're going to go from a positive gamma atmosphere to a negative gamma atmosphere. And so look at it this way. I'm trying to just kind of condense it and just call it some of the characteristics of positive gamma, negative gamma. Positive gamma, the market only catches bids, just goes up slowly, walk, 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 sometimes quick. Sometimes you get a real surge, and those are usually in the opening, and at different times during the day, you get a surge, and then it just walks. But it never really sells off very much. It does, corrects, but they're small, they're shallow. And there's a lot of other things involved. Now, the opposite of that, that's a positive gamma atmosphere. Those are the type of moves that we get, but they're very steady and they just go. So opposite would be where the market cannot catch a bid. The market is just filled with sellers. And truly what it is because of the gamma buildups at the places and the release of volatility and the release of a lot of other things that just, it provides, it sort of can be like the perfect storm type of a thing, because the funnel will form and the tornado will just move through. And it's almost like this is to see, it's almost like see tall, and it just goes, it just takes it out. We saw some of that. You occasionally will see it on a smaller scale, but we saw some of that where suddenly just a seller comes in and go boom, boom, and then another seller comes in and goes boom, boom, and or another group, sell orders, and the market just moves as it did here. So I would be looking, it was a C wave. I'm now looking for a C wave on 1 degree higher. So that means it's starting from up here and it produces basically the same thing. Not off to that start, but maybe when we start getting into the bulk of it, it will. And we'll start getting all of this. That would be kind of what I would look for. Going back to the look and feel conversation, that's kind of what I'd be looking for. Doesn't mean I'm going to get it. All right, so how are we leaving this right now? That's kind of still the one on the side. I'm leaving the larger labeling the same, because all I would need to change is take this off, downgrade that, put a minute a here, change this to a B on a minuet level, minuet A, minuet B, and then all of this up to here was a minuet C, change these down 1 degree. So, put in the correct thing. But the structure itself is not going to change. The labeling would change. But I'm leaving it right here. So if this is a 4, we'd be looking for it to start to go up, to start working its way higher. Everything is okay. The world's white. And now we're just going to move higher. At the moment, the swirling atmosphere around this developing whirlwind is kind of a little bit more sell. That's where I kind of get the speed. They do pick up the speed sometimes onto the upside, but that generally is because we'll see a little explosion in one of the components. In other words, somebody walks in with a big buy order or a big sell order and just kind of moves it, and because of the weighting in that index, boom, does just this bounce, and also to top it spikes and comes back. All right, so. And that would be for the S&P. On the upside, where are we going to have resistance? Well, on this one, I don't think actually. It's got to be from here. And so that's not right. Let me, come on. Let me get rid of these for right now. and I have that, and that's my minute. So here, if this is minute wave 4, and we're looking for 5 is related to here, so that's where you run the fib. You take it from that low up to the high of wave 1, over to the bottom of wave 4. Estimate. I'm not calling that the bottom. We may still drop down and it could be eliminated. That's saying if it ends and stops there and the market starts working its way higher, and we'll see about being in minute fifth wave, these would be where we'd be looking for it to kind of top out. And that would be 57.23, 57.21 being the other high. We'd like to see it a little bit more than that, but it would fit. But more realistically, there's 100% at 58.15. So again, here we go. The potential for a move between 5,700 and 5,800 is still there. But the market needs to be a little bit more serious about that that's the case and start building in that direction. So what it really suggests is that we go past volatility triggers and we trigger them going into the upside direction, which then brings the risk on trade back into fashion. See, it's been coin tossing. Do we put more of that risk on trade, or are we starting to take risk off? So that's kind of how things are trading right now and the moves that we get. All right, so S&P, those are the upside. Now downside, we have continued support at 55.51 and 54.80. Those are the levels. Now inside that, we've now kind of come below the hourly 200, which was at 55.93 overnight, and right now is at 55.99. So again, that inches up and kind of maybe might be helpful here. Up on the daily, the moving averages, they're not bad. They are still in alignment to go up. But here you can kind of see, this actually does look very ABC-ish. A lot of threes, right? So that on the daily looks okay. But we break this, tomorrow could turn even stronger. Then we'll have more clarity. So that would be, the rule would be if it breaks there, but I start to look here, giving it a good cold, hard look to see how hard it breaks below here and how close, if it did, it got here. A break here, I'm pretty much going to shift because then you're looking at that's already broken the 50. So, the picture changes and we have both sides covered in terms of an Elliott move. Unfortunately, it does become a little bit more difficult to say, well, this is how, if you're trading, I think each one of us has to choose the trades we're going to do, but you've got swing and then you got day. I think as a position, and if you're using options, there's a lot of different things you could do. You start using strangles, one idea. There are different positions you could put on, but I don't recommend trades. So I just do technical analysis and personal bias sometimes. Now, let's go over and take a look now here again, RSI. RSI is kind of telling you, we bounced, we came up, and even though after hours we made an additional new low, didn't do that much damage to RSI. We'll see going forward. Let's go over and take a look at the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ also did come down, did come within our zone. Again, I'm starting here on the hourly chart. I am leaving it that this was wave 4 and that this was the 3. But here again, this is the market that Sasha and I were talking about after hours. And he's beginning to be a little bit stronger based on this compared to that, the look and the feel. And I'm like, you got to respect the conversation. Oh, and the name of that other company was Viva. Sasha tells me that's really a cool company. I'm like, okay. Well, they did well. That we have 3 and a 4. Possibility that this is 4. Now, Sasha, if it wasn't, and so I am presenting it because we're going to respect other views, and particularly Sasha's, And so in that case, this would be an A, this would be A, B. Now these would be minuet. This would be a minute wave A, minuet A, minuet B, and now there is minuet C because we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to label this as a minute wave B, and we're coming down in a C wave. Same deal. It's not very pretty. It's more corrective than it is impulsive. But you can 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a very small 3, or 1. I just don't know yet. So yeah, they're very boxy-like. They're very 3-like. So we got to wait. And it's pretty elongated. But if we start to move higher now, then I will be more satisfied. We came down in between 0.236, 382. 382, the most popular, the most often, was at 19,152, and today's low was 19,227. So yeah, came within 70. Not bad for the NASDAQ. But I thought for a while that we could. But it stopped and it ran. All right, so based on that, the alternate or the side-by-side other count would put this as the B wave, and we're in a C wave, and the expectation was that we come back down here. I'm going to leave it at that because I want to see it develop a little bit more before I start putting different fibs in for stronger downside. The ultimate would be we start, then that's what I said, but it's the same thing. Here's the C wave, here's that previous C wave. And you could see it was pretty steady. And that towards the end, we gapped and we dropped. Now that was the yen, the unwinding of the yen trade. And we saw volatility spike. This started on a Sunday, and we saw volatility spike at 64, I think it was. So now, what do we got coming up? I mean, tomorrow's Thursday, then Friday, and Monday here in the United States, it's a holiday. Markets will be closed. I believe Globex will be open. Not positive if Globex open on Sunday or Monday. We shall see. But Globex will be open, but the U.S. regular trading done, off for a holiday. And it's the one that ends the season, so to speak. So running off, getting out of town. So I'm even thinking that Friday's expiration could be all set up and done while a lot of traders take the day off. Don't know. Now, here, I would be thinking that if we're going to start to go down, we need to break below, of course, 19,000. But the speed that we kind of went down today and moved around, we finished up down 343. At one point, we were down over 300 and rallied all the way back to being down, I think, less than 100. And now we end up back down there. So cannot deny. But if we don't go down and put in a new low and we start to rally, which is not likely because NVIDIA is now trading between 118 and 119. So they might start to bring it down. And that's going to lean us towards this being not the fourth wave. But I need to see it below there. And I actually don't even really want to see it too much below here in the current context. Because it is big. So everything has its limitation, even in my mind. So I'm going to leave it there for right now on the premise that the market may come down a little bit more. We have that support at 19,152, 153. A break there does drop it down to 18,880. Not really. The market may do that, but then understand that the count may then suggest and be moved over. We're running them side by side. The other one, which is what I'm showing you, that this is a B and these are a bunch of 1-2s, and we're going to drop. We're going to drop. We're going to drop. And we're going to drop into negative gamma atmosphere. And that's going to be like, from a trading perspective, fun. Usually it's not choppy, could be, but you get those bigger moves and you get in because we'll be expecting them. We're expecting the larger moves to be hitting on the sell side because of the switch in the gamma from positive to negative. All right. Now I want to go over the other count. And the other count is 1, 2, 3, 4. This loses validity if we break 152, and if we come down this far, it really does start to break validity. Okay, so you have to kind of start considering that we could be involved in a move that eventually brings us down to here. And again, it's got to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But make sure that you bear all that in mind about these breaks. They could be a break, come down, and rally. And it doesn't suggest or mean that it's not going to turn around and go back down. Okay, so, but they do happen. Let's go down to the 15 just so that we can see inside the beast. There's a lot of trading. There's a lot of trading. Those are beautiful moves. And I mean truly beautiful. These are 5, 6, 700, $1,000 moves and 1 or 2 contracts in the NASDAQ. They go that fast. And, you know, if you can get them, but inside of them, they are big moves. Collectively, it's a very, very nice. And you can see we had plenty. We had plenty. This was today. This was after. This is after. This is NVIDIA's earnings. Yahoo, Mountain Dew. And it was pretty much over the board. And it was a big, big, easy money on the way down. All right. So if this is a 4, what does it look like coming back up? Which we need to start pretty quickly. We're gonna, these are the levels. But ultimately, we're going to be looking that we got to get above 20,026. And actually, we need to get above this for it to be minute wave 5. So again, even when you're bringing that to, you start to see 3, 4. That's pretty big. That's pretty big. Not, you know, in comparison to the 2 is pretty big, but in terms of time. So it does, again, on the 4-hour, start to lean to put the B wave here, and we're going to come down. Okay? I'm just telling you both, so you're not surprised. If you're a day trader or a swing trader and you see it, trade it. Because now and pay attention to the flows. That's all I got to say. Because if the flows match up, it's like they start breaking, the algorithms will just start trading. And you got to be there because you can catch them. And they just go. All right, so back down. Oh, and what I wanted to say is, like, if it is the C wave, bingo. That's where we're looking. And trust me, again, let's look at it this way. It wasn't a flat. So we're very likely going to come down to here in the back wall, so to speak, right? You got the front wall that is that's the hurricane coming in. And then you got the eye, which is like calm, and you're like, "Whoo, we made it through that." And then just as you wipe the sweat off your forehead, here comes the back wall and just drowns you. So kind of like that. There was the front wall, here was the eye, and then we get the back wall. So it's really tough to say. Is it still a 50-50 shot? And that's where I have to say yes. That is at least a 50-50. Well, if we start to see these breaks between 19,152 and specifically 18,880, if we start to break there, I'm pretty much, we're in a C wave down, would be my thought. And that's how I'm going to trade it as well. So, and I'm going to leave it there. Now this kind of goes along with, this is the 4-hour. Oh, could be moving into a little bit oversold pretty quickly. And then we get a bounce. And on a 4-hour, could be a good bounce. So again, 4 up, sure. Going up, by the way, here you have it. Just to get a start, you need to get above there, which was 20,000 something. So, or right about, it was 20,025. Definitely got to get above there in a 5. And more than likely, we need to get above here. Now, because this kind of suddenly become the weaker link between the S&P, and here. S&P's like already been up and made new all-time highs. I think once or twice. Where the Nasdaq's like, yeah, have good time. I'm not even close. So, but for wave five, we'd expect it to get close, if not get above it. But because of this internal weakness, and because it's a fifth wave, and because it's ending a larger move, it could fail. Is that my first look? No, but it could. And that's where I'm going to leave it. Now, tomorrow, let's take a look and see what we got coming out in terms of economics. Thursday, initial jobless claims, advanced U.S. trade balance in goods, retail sales, wholesale inventories, GDP, the second revision, pending home sales. So most of that comes out at 8:30 a.m. and pending home sales comes out at 10 a.m. And it should be a fun day. And that's going to be it for today. Next update will be on Thursday, August the 29th.